questions and answers. That's what we're doing here today. Long overdue, but it just haven't felt right, but now it do. Let's get started. So one of the top rated questions was from OV04, and that is why 57? Super legit question. It has a legit answer as well. There's not just a random number. So to answer this question, we need to step back like 15 years or so. When I was a child, 57 was my lucky and favorite number. For some strange reason, I just had 57 as my lucky number. And a couple of years later, when I was supposed to do my first email, I wanted to have just 57@hotmail.com. Obviously that was taken, and everything similar to it was taken as well. So what I did end up doing was experimenting with how can I make 57 into my email address, and I ended up with 5 in letters, 10 in numbers, and 7 in letters, which basically means 5, 10, 7, written in numbers and in letters at hotmail.com. So that was my email address. And later on, when I registered like 11 years ago on the Swedish parkour forum, I used that nickname, 510-7 or 510-7. People thought it was kind of a strange name and people remembered it. So I was getting known within the Swedish parkour community as 510-7. So people did not call me Pontus when we met. It was, oh hey, 510-7, or in English, 510-7. Yeah, that went on for quite many years. Like, we didn't call each other by name back then, we called each other by our forum names. And even like my friends' parents knew me as 510-7 and not as Pontus. Like, I remember my friend Joel asked his parents like, oh, can Pontus stay at our place? And they were like, who is Pontus? And I was like, oh, sorry, 510-7. And they were like, oh yeah, of course. Kind of stupid, but that's how it was. And then a couple of years later, like, that forum died like 7 years ago. And then when social media became a thing, I still wanted to have 57, but I did not want to nick 510-7 because that was kind of strange. So I just ended up with Pontus and then putting 57 after my name. And therefore, my nick is to this day Pontus57. So it has a deeper meaning, and it's not just a random number like a lot of people think. So yeah, that's the story behind 57. What's up with these names? Next question is from Smekfis, YouTube user. What has been your worst injury? Like, to be frankly honest, I haven't had any big injuries from parkour, climbing, or anything like that. Like scratches and bruises, twisted ankles, yes, that's part of it. But my biggest injury comes from a trampoline. You know, this like competition official trampoline or whatever you would call them, Eurotramp. I was jumping on one of them, and I was supposed to do a gainer with a triple twist out from the trampoline, land on a crash mat, something I have done a lot of times before. But this time I jumped too short. I ended up back on the trampoline with my leg not straight down, but like this. Which was bad, like really bad. Like my knee was first bending in the wrong direction like this, and then the trampoline bounced it back up. So it was like that was totally, it was really bad. And I needed surgery, which was, yeah, I was really worried there and then. Like, the first thing that popped into my head was like, what now? What should I do now? Like, I have been training parkour every day for the past majority of my life, and I realized that before the pain, like, I'm not gonna be able to train parkour for a good while. That was actually strange looking back to it, like feeling that before I felt any pain. Anyways, I needed surgery. It took me 2 months until I could even slightly walk at the leg, and it took me another 8 months until I could start training again. So that was quite a depressing period in my life. That was back 2012, I'm pretty sure. And here we go. We have a lot of questions regarding death and heights and all of that, which isn't that strange, frankly honest. So Philip asks this: are you afraid of death while doing jumps? I assume Philip means jumps on high heights then. And the short answer is no, not at all. But I think I should go into more depth about that. Like, if I would feel fear, that would be an indicator that I have been pushing myself a little bit too far from my safety zone. Like, for me, doing jumps on heights is a lot of mental training. Like the jumps, I want to separate them from climbing buildings and just talk about the jumps because they're a little bit different in my mindset. Like for me, the jumps is strictly related to a deep kind of parkour training, even though it's not directly related to parkour, some would say. For me, I've been doing parkour for roughly 13 years, and after a while you want to improve your mental game as well. Not just how far you can jump or how much flow you can have, you want to train your mind as well. And that is kind of what jumps on height is for me. Like, one, to prove to myself that I can do this jump. Like, I have done this at ground level thousands of times and I nail it every time. Like, why should it be any different if it is between two buildings? Like, that is what I actually think. It is the exact same jump, but you add something that messes with your mind, and that is everything. The jump is exactly the same. You are able to do that thousands of times and have 100% success ratio on ground level. So, if you have a strong enough mind, the jump should be exactly the same 100 meters up as 1 meter up. And that is kind of why I practice jumps. If I am not 100% sure, I would not do the jump high up. If I know that this is a jump that I've been nailing like thousands and thousands of times at ground level, then it gets interesting for me to practice that jump higher up. And that is where the mental training comes in. Zone out everything except the jump. So it's kind of like meditation, like you are super present. There's not a single thought in your mind that isn't strictly related to what you're doing right this moment. Everything is gone except what you're about to do. In that state of mind, there's no fear, no adrenaline, no stress. Just present mind and total calm. So no, I do not feel any fear. Then we have a question from Revolution Phoenix. Let's see. It is kind of related to what I just said, I can see. What do you do / think to calm yourself in stressful situations, or do you even get stressed / afraid? We can scratch the afraid things because I just talked about that. The stressful things, like yes, you could end up in a stressful situation up high even though you didn't intend to do so, because you might always encounter something that you haven't planned of. It could be like a security dog, or it could be slippery areas, or it could come a flock of birds or whatever that might cause you stress. And there's nothing really you can do about that because they are out of your control. But then about that stress, it's important to, if you put yourself in situations where your life depends on being able to take right decisions, then you need to be super aware of how you handle stress. If I would think that I could panic if something like that happened, then I wouldn't be able to go to heights, because if I panic and freeze, there's nothing to do about it. So you need to be super aware of how your body and mind handles stress. And that comes down to mindfulness. I don't really like that expression, but it comes down to being in control of your mind and thoughts, basically. Oh, there was a second question within this question from Revolution Phoenix Advanced. How many hours do you practice a week? I don't know. Like, it's very different. I do some sort of physical conditioning every day, whether it's just lifting weights or if it's climbing or maybe being out training parkour for like 6 hours. So very hard to tell, like minimum 1 hour every day, and some very intense days is like 6 hours of training, but that is not a normal day or anyway the standard. So I would say like maybe probably 2 hours every day, and then some days is more, some days is less. So that's like physical training, and then like the training for your mind is like, at least I do meditation every single day, 20 minutes, and then you could just go and balance and make that some sort of mental training as well. So probably adds up to 30 minutes to 1 hour of mental training every day as well. Simon Larsson asks, there's always a chance of falling down. Maybe it's slim for somebody who has the experience and confidence, but there's always a risk. What's your thought about that, and is it really worth it? Well, Simon, since I do it, I think it's worth it. And I am not sure if we agree on the risk. Of course there's risk. Like, I cannot say anything about that. But there's risk to everything you do in life. Whatever it's walking down the street, you might get hit by a car. Like, not really a relevant comparison, but I think you get what I mean. I don't think the risk is that big if you don't make it big. And then the bigger risk that people don't really talk about, it's like the risk of living an unfulfilled or boring life. And I think that's worse, at least for me. Like, I think you're taking a bigger risk if you don't activate yourself and do the things that makes you happy, or that the things you really want to do in life, whatever that might be. Like a cliche thing to say, but when I'm old, I don't want to be looking back at my life and like, I wished I would have done that, or I haven't done the stuff I really wanted to do. So I think there's a bigger risk of living a life that isn't yours truly and doing the stuff that are expected from you from society. And I think that is a bigger risk, a bigger health risk, both physically and mentally, to not feel fulfilled and not doing the stuff that you truly want to do. But to answer your question, I think I went a little bit off topic, but stuff like that kind of irritates me when people are like, oh, there's a big risk to what you do, but then there's so many people not doing anything. That's a bigger risk in my opinion. And I know a lot of people will disagree on that, but this is just my thoughts. And do I think it's worth the risk? Well, the small risk I think there is to the stuff I do, yes, it's worth it. And it's a calculated risk as well. So let's skip to something completely different. Axel Werner asks, I don't know if I pronounced that right, probably Axel Werner. What other hobbies do you have except from parkour and climbing? I guess travel is considered like a hobby. So yeah, travel, big hobby. Then obviously cliff jumping, I really, really like that. Photography, videography, love it. Really big fan of skiing as well. And then we have skydiving, which I haven't done in a while, or like 3 years. Like since I got my license, I haven't done it, which is super sad, but it's quite expensive. It's very expensive. But I think this year I'm probably gonna take up on that and do some more skydiving. I really, really want to do that more. And then, yeah, there's the obvious stuff that everybody likes. I like to hang out with friends, just have nice conversations. Then obviously my family, spend family time. I hope that answers the question of other hobbies and stuff. He also asked about my job, which a lot of people did. Especially like, how could you afford to travel like you do, and what do you do for a living? And that is quite a complex question. So complex that I have done a video about that already, where I discussed the topic of how to travel without actually making so much money. Because I do not make a lot of money, but the choices I do ensure that I can travel pretty much as I want anyway. So yeah, next Wednesday. But yeah, back to the question about my work situation. But I haven't really had what you would say a normal job ever. Doesn't fit me. I don't like it that much. I have had like what you would call a traditional job, but not a 9 to 5 in that sense. Like I have been working extra hours, and I have been working for shorter periods of time. Ever since I graduated high school, I have been pretty much self-employed and been working mostly with parkour. At some time I had like a video production company with friends where we did some decently big commercials for quite well-known companies in Sweden. But mostly I've been doing parkour stuff, like I've been doing coaching, I've been doing starring in like shows and commercials regarding parkour. And that's where most of my money come from. It's very up and down with income, so I pretty much save everything. The stuff I do not spend on rent and food, I pretty much save for traveling. I do, however, I can mention that for full transparency. Like now, just recently, like 2 weeks ago, I got a job that I am super excited about because I can do it on my computer wherever in the world I am. And I work with customer support at ridestore.com. It's basically a streetwear and snowwear site. I work in the chat there, so if you ever need any help at Ridestore, I might be the one answering your questions. But yeah, that is very recently, so it haven't affected my financial situation in any way, but it's got gonna be super helpful for me in the future, seeing people doing this at their Q&As. Emil asks, what's your current travel plan? Quickly summarized, I am in Bangkok now. I will probably head up north in Thailand for a couple of days, then back to Bangkok, do some more buildings, and then I'm gonna head off to Sri Lanka, where a friend of mine, Adam Widén, the guy who arranges Dödshopp every year, Death Jump for the non-Swedish viewers, he has a surf camp there, Indian Ocean Surf Club. So I'm gonna go there and actually learn to surf properly, which have been a dream of mine for a long time, and I finally did something about it. So I'm gonna be in Sri Lanka surfing like a week or two. After that, I'm gonna be back to Stockholm early February, probably spend a month in Stockholm and then head up to the mountains in Sweden and do like skiing for a month or so. I'm really excited about that as well. That's kind of the basic question that gets asked a lot, so I thought I'm gonna focus on that once. Then there was a few really good but bigger questions that I'm gonna take in another video, and then I had like a lot of small questions. So I'm gonna do a few quick questions with quick answers. Here we go. Jonathan asks, what's your favorite building? That would be NK-klockan and Naturhistoriska Riksmuseet. Benjamin asks, which year are you born and which educations do you have? I'm born in 1992. I studied IT technology in high school, and then after a couple years I've been studying journalism as well. It's Neo asks, what's your favorite country for parkour and similar? Parkour, it's probably the island of Santorini, amazing. And then we have Hong Kong, kind of my favorite general city. Like we have amazing parkour spots, the urban ones, and then obviously the rooftops. Tobias, do you have a driving license? Yes, I do, since like 6 years back, I think. Nikos asks, how's your living situation in Sweden? I live in a very small apartment. It's actually, it wasn't actually meant for two people to live there. So I built my own room in it. So we have one room each, me and my roommate, and a smaller living room instead, which is quite nice. So yeah, I share an apartment with a friend, small apartment in central Stockholm. Emma Whitley asks, are you single and ready to mingle? I could mingle with you. So I hope that answered some of your questions. I could also provide you with an answer before you pop the question. Shirt, towel, candle lights. Candle lights are for coziness though. But I was supposed to do this video outside today, go around doing stuff and answering questions at the same time, but it's raining like crazy, so I didn't want to go out. And this white wall behind me was quite boring, so I just put up some stuff I had to make it a little bit more interesting to watch. Anyways, that is it for me. I hope you could endure me talking for this long. It feels like I've been ranting on for ages. See you guys in the next video. Puss och kram.